Moving on, and China has escalated its military pressure on Taiwan, continuing large-scale drills in the Taiwan Strait, including live fire exercises in the East China Sea. The People's Liberation Army conducted long-range live fire drills on Wednesday, simulating precision strikes on key ports and energy facilities as part of the Strait Thunder 2025A exercises. These drills are designed to test capabilities in area control, joint blockade and precision strikes. Taiwan's Defence Ministry reported 76 aircraft, 15 warships and 4 official vessels near the island, with 37 aircraft crossing the median line into Taiwan's air defence zone. Beijing claims the drills serve as a stern warning against Taiwan's pro-independence forces. The exercises follow Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te's March the 13th statement, where he labelled Beijing a foreign hostile force. China continues to claim Taiwan as its own, but has not specified when the drills will end or whether more are planned. While the US does not recognise Taiwan as independent, it strongly opposes any forceful actions and continues supplying weapons for Taiwan's defence. With tensions escalating, global attention remains on Beijing's next moves. Let's listen in to what the White House has said.
Matter of fact, the National Security Council briefed me on this morning, and they said that the president is emphasizing the importance of maintaining peace in the Taiwan Strait, encouraging the peaceful resolution of these cross-strait issues, reiterating our opposition to any unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force or coercion. That is directly from the National Security Advisor.
Well, joining us to discuss these latest developments is Ross Feingold, a political risk analyst joining us from Taipei in Taiwan. Ross, thank you as always for joining us today. I have to, of course, ask you first, what is the feeling in Taiwan given this increased military action over the past 48 hours or so?
For the public at large, it's business as usual. The public doesn't stop what they're doing just because China has a military exercise. So people are going to work, children are going to school. So from that perspective, it's business as usual. Obviously, the civilian leadership and the military leadership have to respond to China's military exercises. The military puts its own ships to sea and its own aircraft in the air to monitor what China's doing, and the civilian leadership have to make the decisions that come with holding high office, such as the president or the premier, and usually that's some combination of reassuring the public that they've monitored the Chinese exercises. It's also typical to criticize China for being a troublemaker and upsetting regional stability, and then typically the Taiwan government will also thank other countries that issued statements of support, such as the statement from the United States.
Absolutely, Ross. Looking at the response from Taiwan, do you think that there is a fear that this is working towards some form of invasion or land sort of assault on Taiwan, given the intensity that we're now seeing these military drills and the fact that they seem to be becoming more common?
Yeah, there's several aspects to the issue you raise. One, I like to say that people in Taiwan need to assume that an invasion could happen tomorrow and prepare accordingly, because if they don't have that kind of attitude, when an invasion or a blockade comes, they're going to be unprepared. So I do typically call on people or the military, the corporate world, and other stakeholders to really go about their business as if tomorrow there could be a military emergency involving China and Taiwan. In addition, we also have to keep in mind that every time China does this, and the more complex their exercises become, the more resources that are included in any one exercise, the joint arms operation combining naval and rocket forces, or the Army and the Air Force, China learns from that, and they improve their capability to blockade or to invade Taiwan every time they conduct these exercises. And I think that's something that Taiwan and its main security partner, the United States, need to be very, very concerned about, because China's military learns from experience and they learn from their mistakes. And each time they do this, they're better prepared to actually do a military invasion or a blockade.
Yes, absolutely, Ross. We heard from Caroline Leavitt in the United States just before we started speaking to you. They have, of course, said that the region's security is being put at risk by these continued drills and live fire drills as well. Given Pete Hegseth was in Asia not too long ago, how do you think the US will respond, and do you think they will show all-out unity with Taiwan in the face of this potential risk of invasion from China?
I think we'll see more statements from the United States, and as I mentioned, that's going to be appreciated by the government of Taiwan. What's still unknown, because it's relatively early days in the Trump administration, is what kind of military presence President Trump wants to authorize in this part of the world, and specifically, what does President Trump want to do with naval resources? Does he want more Navy transits of the Taiwan Strait, which makes a big statement towards China when the U.S. Navy transits the Taiwan Strait? Will there be a more frequent presence in the South China Sea, more frequent exercises with partners like Japan and the Philippines? We've seen some signs of that, and clearly the national security and foreign policy team of the Trump administration wants to have a more robust presence in the Indo-Pacific, but we'll have to wait and see as the days and weeks and coming months go by what President Trump actually wants to do.
Yes, Ross, you mentioned Japan and the Philippines. Is there a fear amongst nations within the region that if this action continues and potentially China does invade Taiwan, there's a risk posed to them as well?
Certainly, countries in the region are very concerned. There are countries in the region that have a large number of foreign nationals. Japan has maybe several thousands in Taiwan, but countries like the Philippines and Indonesia and Vietnam have up to several 100,000 of their nationals living and working in Taiwan. So at a minimum, other countries in the region are concerned about the safety of their own citizens who are in Taiwan, but also, more broadly speaking, they have to be concerned that a Chinese military action against Taiwan might also drag them in, whether that's because the United States asks to use resources based in those countries, or because China might be victorious over Taiwan and then turn its attention to its sovereignty disputes with other countries. So certainly countries around the region are very concerned about this. They don't want to take sides, but they hope that the status quo could be maintained.
Yes, Ross, to bring an end to this discussion, I want to bring it back to Taiwan. What do you think the people of Taiwan want in this situation, and how might that make a difference in the ongoing military pressure that China are placing on Taiwan?
Generally speaking, the people in Taiwan want to maintain the status quo. They know that a unilateral declaration of independence from Taiwan would cause an immediate military response from China. So the public doesn't really support that. They support the status quo. Certainly, they don't like the Chinese military exercises. They don't like the tension. They don't want tensions to boil over between Taiwan and China, or between the United States and China. And they would like just a peaceful status quo to be open-ended.
Ross Feingold, as always, thank you ever so much for joining us and providing your insight on an extremely difficult topic. It's something we will, of course, be covering as any action in and around Taiwan continues. But we